When it comes to suicide, Nietzsche suggests that it's actually an obligation. I'm not sure he'd want to call it a moral obligation, but I'll do that for him today. A moral obligation to commit suicide. Why? Because just as it is best to have lived at the right time and the right way, it is better to die at the same time and the right way. As he says, if you live proudly, then you should die proudly. Do not become the parasite on society the sick become. Instead, when you feel it's time, you should commit suicide. He acknowledges that most people won't be able to live up to this requirement of his, but that doesn't mean he backs away from it. The best, the strongest, know when their time is ready and will go out under their own hand. This is a celebration of suicide. Certainly, if we wanted to, we could point at Nietzsche as an example of someone who did not go out at the right time, having had a major breakdown before his death, for years seemingly incompetent. We can look at Socrates, who selected his time to go. I mean, after all, it's pointed out in the Meno that Socrates could have been rescued. He could have escaped. Likewise, Crito comes to convince Socrates that he should escape. Socrates stays because it's his time. He sees that this is his time to go, and so he goes. Isn't it better to choose your own time? Isn't it better to be in control of your own death and as much as you were in control of your own life? Now, I made a little joke about Nietzsche killing himself, that he couldn't die at the right time. But like most of us, we don't get to pick our time. And not just because we have chosen not to commit suicide, but because it comes out of nowhere. We weren't expecting it. We didn't know it was coming. So why really worry about suicide? Interestingly enough, St. Augustine had to deal with just such an issue. Apparently, there were among young Christian women the desire not to be despoiled by Roman non-Christians, to avoid marriages to non-believers, and other issues that had caused at least the talk of suicide amongst a lot of them, and certainly a few suicides that actually happened. St. Augustine felt then the need to issue some direction on how to deal with this. First of all, he says, there is no ground for suicide at all. These young women were saying, well, rather to commit suicide than be despoiled by Roman soldiers. Well, St. Augustine makes the point, if you're going to commit suicide, then you're doing the evil thing, not the Roman soldier. Yes, perhaps your physical body will be made unhappy and unpleasant, but your soul will be intact. Whereas if you commit suicide, you're breaking the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not kill. Now, in general, thou shalt not kill has not been understood as a directive against suicide. So he had to press this point home and made it clear that any killing was forbidden. Any killing of human beings was forbidden by the phrase, thou shalt not kill. Interestingly enough, though, he had to stop and make exceptions. He had to say, well, the executioner is acting as the hand of the state. And as the state is acting as the hand of God, then it is all right for the executioner to kill people. Likewise, in time of war, it is all right to kill others. After all, this state again, you're acting as the hand of, and the hand of God to the state. You often wonder, well, it can't be both sides of the hand of God. So are the other guys actually committing sin? Well, I mean, it's bad enough to lose, but I have to commit sin too? Let's stay away from that. I don't think that's really an issue here. It is interesting, though, to note that he makes no comment about why the commandment, thou shalt not kill, is given. He does not suggest that your life is not yours, but God's. He merely says God has made this commandment, thou shalt not kill, and if you shalt not kill others, you shalt not kill yourself. The restriction holds regardless who is being killed, except, of course, the two exceptions I mentioned. Nietzsche's challenge is die at the right time. St. Augustine reminds us we don't get to choose. A lot to think about. A lot to talk about. Keep on talking philosophy.